Good afternoon, everyone. I am Medha Sridharan, and in this video, I'll be demonstrating the workflow of qSafe from the user's perspective. qSafe is an app used by consumers and citizens to queue at a location. Firstly, when we open the qSafe app, we see an authentication screen to authenticate the user with their phone number. This can also be modified to use a SingPass or NRIC number for authentication. Once the user has entered their phone number, they can click the Verify button, and once the system has initialized, the consumer can see categories for locations for queues in the action bar at the top left corner. For our demonstration purposes, we have configured queues at banks, SMRT stations, polyclinics, wet markets, and election booths. However, any category can be configured under custom circumstances. Here, we will choose election booths for our demonstration. Here, we can see that the list of election voting booths is currently compressed. However, it is an expandable list with a hierarchy. It is currently organized into only one category, which is clearly not a very good presentation, as it will eventually result in a long list for the user. Thus, we can definitely show all the GRCs and zones in the category list. Within zones, we can just show the election booths which are relevant for the consumer. This allows information to be presented in a user-friendly way. Now, we can choose our voting booth location at ACS High School. We now notice that the status of the queue can be seen, such as the number of people in the queue, which in this case is 2, and the estimated waiting time, which in this case is 10 minutes. We can configure any number of queues in any location. These queues can also be disabled by administrators centrally to prevent queuing at the location. Once we're ready, we can click the queue button to register to get a mobile queue ticket. We can fill in our name, NRIC number, and any special needs we might have. We can then register in the queue, and upon successful queuing, the system issues an electronic queue ticket with relevant details, such as waiting time and the number of people in the queue beforehand. This queue ticket can also be cancelled to drop out of the queue. If any consumer does not have a mobile phone, they can walk in and be added to the queue by the queue manager at the location. This system is currently configured such that the approximate time each person takes to vote is 5 minutes, and the estimated waiting time is calculated based on this configuration. The queue manager can also issue alerts to everyone in the queue, as shown here. The queue manager can also process the queue, and as the queue manager processes the queue, the number of people in the queue and the estimated waiting time is automatically updated by the cloud-based server using push messaging. When the customer is second in the queue ticket is updated, saying, "You are next." When the customer is called, an alert appears, saying, "You are called," and the ticket is once again updated. Once the consumer is done voting, he gets an alert that his service is complete. The consumer can then rate the service on a scale of 1 to 5 and provide a review. This completes the workflow from a consumer's point of view. In this demonstration, I will be demonstrating qSafeBiz, the app used by queue managers to process and control the queue at any location. Each location must be managed by an authorized officer, and thus everyone using the app must be securely authenticated. In this demo, we are using Google, but real businesses can use any enterprise authentication system. A national-level authentication system like SingPass can also be used. Here, we are logged in as Radha Shri, who is configured as a queue manager for the voting booth at ACS High School. The first tab gives complete visibility into the status of all queues and counters at a location via push messaging from the server. For example, we can see here whether the queue is enabled, the name of the officer managing the queue, the number of people waiting in the queue, the estimated waiting time for anyone joining the queue now, and the queue number currently being served. A Wi-Fi enabled TV can be added to any location to display the status of all queues and counters, as done in banks and immigration offices today. The queue manager can also add walk-in customers who do not have mobile phones to the queue. The queue manager can own a queue by selecting the blue screen and selecting Yes. In the second tab, the queue manager can process the queue. There are currently 3 people in the queue, but I think 2 more are joining. The queue manager can use scroll view to see all the people in the queue. Next, the queue manager can call a customer. The customer is moved to a green slot at the top of the screen. Once the service is complete, you can mark the customer as complete. If the customer does not turn up, it can also be marked as no show. As shown previously, the queue manager can also issue alerts to queuers and remove them from the queue. This completes the workflow from a queue manager's point of view. Thank you.